5 years ago, my childhood sweetheart, who had sworn to marry me since we were little, beat me until miscarriage for the sake of someone new. Later, I married Robert Sterling. 5 years later, I returned to my hometown and ran into Aunt Martha's family at the shopping mall. They were overjoyed, asking if I was over my anger and had come back planning to marry Ethan Davis. After you left, Ethan personally came to us and promised that if you were willing to accept Victoria White, you two could enter the Davis family together. Dear, the Davis family is now the wealthiest/most powerful family/corporation in Seaview. Even if you were to be his mistress, getting into the Davis family would be your good fortune. I smiled. Compared to my husband now, the Davis family was nothing. Looking at Aunt Martha, I said calmly, Aunt Martha, I got married 5 years ago, and I have 2 children now. One for Ethan Davis. These past 5 years were as if I had vanished without a trace. No one knew how I was living. So Aunt Martha's family was especially surprised to see me at the shopping mall, looking me up and down. Finally, Aunt Martha's gaze stopped at my coat, her brow slightly furrowed. Sarah, where did you run off to these past 5 years? This coat is patched/worn out. You haven't been doing very well, have you? I couldn't help but smile bitterly. This was a Chanel designer exclusive, only 3 pieces worldwide. But I just curved my lips and smiled faintly, offering no explanation. Seeing this, Aunt Martha immediately changed to a concerned expression, stepping forward to take my hand. Jessica's eyes also shone with excitement. Sarah, you're finally back. Ethan Davis has been looking for you for 5 years. Now the Davis family is the wealthiest/most powerful family/corporation in Seaview, with immense power. If you married him, you'd have endless wealth and luxury from now on, and we could get rich off my connection too, right? Looking at Auntie Martha and Jessica's sudden warmth, annoyance spread in my heart. Back when my family was poor, Aunt Martha's family treated me with all sorts of disdain and spoke scornfully/contemptuously. It wasn't until they found out Ethan Davis liked me that their attitude changed instantly. This eagerness was nothing more than wanting to climb the social ladder through me and the Davis family. My expression was calm as I looked directly at them. I can't marry Ethan Davis again. At these words, Aunt Martha and Jessica reacted strongly. Aunt Martha's eyes widened, her voice rising abruptly. Are you out of your mind, child? Look at the Davis family's status now. How many people are desperate to marry into that family, and you're not willing? You truly don't know what's good for you. Jessica stamped her foot in exasperation. Sarah, don't be foolish. If you miss Ethan Davis, where will you find a husband with such good conditions? You'll regret it for the rest of your life. Ethan Davis and I grew up together since we were young. When we were children, we were innocent and pure, didn't understand the difference between boys and girls, and even bathed together. Back then, sunlight spilled into the courtyard, and we played and laughed without a care. Everyone said I was my shadow/tag-along, and I was happy to stick by him. That's how we spent 18 years together. It wasn't until after graduating from university that we moved in together. Not long after, I got pregnant with his child. At the time, my first thought was to go to his company to tell him the good news. But as I passed a hotel, I saw Victoria White walking out with him, her arm linked intimately through his. In that instant, my world seemed to freeze, my mind a blank. Ethan Davis, what is the meaning of this? I couldn't help but step forward to demand. Ethan Davis saw me and quickly released Victoria White's arm in a panic. Victoria White smiled sweetly at me and said softly, Dan and I are here to check out the hotel, we're planning to acquire it. You're not getting the wrong idea, are you? Ethan Davis then frowned, a look of impatience on his face. Don't overthink things. This is work. Making a scene here is completely out of line. I looked at Ethan Davis through teary eyes. Checking out a hotel required such intimacy? And there was still a lipstick mark on his shirt collar. I raised my hand and pointed to it, my voice cold. Then how do you explain this? To Ethan Davis's body stiffened, and he froze, opening his mouth but unable to say anything. My voice was particularly abrupt in the hotel lobby, instantly attracting the attention of those around us. Seeing this situation, Ethan Davis's face immediately turned ugly, and a clear flicker of displeasure crossed his eyes. He quickly scanned the gazes directed at us, suppressing his anger, and reached out to firmly grab my arm, pulling me forcefully to the side. Stop making a scene here. Pulled into a quieter corner, I shook off his hand. Ethan Davis explained, just now in the elevator, it was packed with people, and Victoria lost her balance and accidentally brushed against me. It's really that simple. Can you please stop imagining things? Victoria White also followed us, helping Ethan Davis lie. I was too clumsy. Please don't take it to heart. There was truly nothing else going on. Her polite and composed/well-mannered demeanor made the people around us think that I was the one being unreasonable. Ethan Davis then softly coaxed me, okay, don't be angry. It's really nothing. So many people are watching. Under his coaxing and persuasion, the anger in my heart slightly subsided. Only then did I loop my arm through his and happily tell him that I was pregnant. However, Ethan Davis merely said a flat "oh," glanced at the time, and urged, "You should go back first. Victoria and I need to go back to the office for a meeting. This is urgent." With that, Victoria White left in a hurry without looking back. Returning home, I couldn't help but still look forward to the future. I thought that with a child, I wouldn't lose Ethan Davis anymore. So, I threw myself into the kitchen, busy for several hours. The night gradually covered the city, the aroma of food filled the entire house, but Ethan Davis was still late in returning. I sat at the dining table, my eyes fixed on the wall clock. With every minute hand movement, my anticipation turned more anxious. It wasn't until late at night that my phone suddenly rang. The screen showed Victoria White's name. I answered the call, and Victoria White's voice sounded a bit urgent. "Ethan got into a fight with someone. Hurry and come to the bar. I'll explain the details when you get here." Hearing this news, I didn't think twice, my heart filled only with worry. I quickly put on my coat and rushed to the bar. The lighting in the bar was dim, and the loud music hurt my ears. I spotted Ethan Davis at a glance. His face was flushed, his steps unsteady, and he was tightly shielding Victoria White. Across from them were several equally aggressive strangers, and several beer bottles lay scattered on the floor. This scene was exactly like when he used to fight hoodlums for me back then. At that time, his eyes were full of heartache and protection for me. But now, all his care and protection were given to Victoria White. Ethan Davis saw me, his steps wavered, clearly having had too much to drink. "What are you doing here? Who told you to come?" Those guys just accidentally spilled drinks on me, and Ethan got angry and fought them. "It's all my fault." I told him it was okay, but Ethan insisted on forcing them to apologize. Victoria White saw me and quickly came up to explain. But every word showed Ethan Davis's concern for her. Upon hearing the reason, I couldn't help but smile bitterly. I remembered last year, I accompanied him to a meeting with clients. Because some details couldn't be agreed upon, the client was so angry they directly spilled wine on my face. Ethan Davis wasn't as angry as he was today. Instead, he blamed me for saying the wrong thing and even made me apologize to the client. The other party yelled a few more sentences, and Ethan Davis impulsively lunged at them again. His friends around him couldn't persuade him to stop. Watching Ethan Davis act like this for Victoria White, the mixture of grievance and anger surged like waves, and I couldn't suppress it any longer. I raised my hand and slapped the other person with all my might. With that slap, the scene instantly fell silent. No one expected me to make the first move. And I just wanted to see Ethan Davis's reaction. To see if he would still rush out without hesitation to shield me in his arms when I was in danger, like he used to. The person I slapped stumbled back, their face instantly turning beet red. "You bitch. Are you tired of living? You dare hit me." Saying this, the person raised their hand high, about to strike me. I subconsciously closed my eyes, my body inevitably trembling, my heart hoping that Ethan Davis would stand in front of me. But the warm, strong hands I imagined never came. Slap, a heavy slap landed on my face. The sharp pain instantly spread from my cheek throughout my body, and my ears buzzed. Ethan Davis was right there, watching me, being brutally slapped by the other person. He didn't move. In his eyes, there was even a hint of coldness. I slowly opened my eyes, looking at Ethan Davis in disbelief. However, Ethan Davis's face was full of rage as he shouted at me, "What are you doing? Running over here and messing things up, you're just causing trouble." A chill instantly spread from my heart to my entire body. Ethan Davis still looked at the other person self-righteously and shouted angrily, "We're even now. Get out of here." He used my slap to get an apology for Victoria White. The other part was relatively sensible. After spitting a few times, they finally left. Only then did Ethan Davis sink heavily back onto the sofa, breathing heavily. Victoria White wiped the corners of his mouth in front of me. In her eyes, there was only heartache. At this moment, I didn't know what my position in Ethan Davis's heart truly was. Drunk as he was, he could completely disregard my presence. "Ethan Davis, come home with me." I grabbed his arm, trying to pull him up from the sofa. I also wanted to pull him away from Victoria White. However, Ethan Davis violently shook me off, pointing at my nose, and shouted drunkenly, "Go home? What home? Who told you to come here? Your slap prevented me from getting back at them for Victoria." This sudden stab of pain made my body tremble violently. The burning sensation on my face hadn't even subsided, and the twisting pain in my heart made it difficult to breathe. "Ethan Davis, who exactly is your girlfriend?" I glared fiercely at Victoria White. All my disgust for her was written in my eyes. However, with just that one look, the poodle that had been lying beside her began to bare its teeth and bark wildly at me. Finally, it launched itself forward, biting my lower leg. I screamed, instinctively raising my foot and kicking it hard. The little dog was sent flying, yelping in pain. Seeing this, Victoria White also shrieked, got up, and shoved me hard to the ground. She tightly hugged the dog, tears streaming down her face, and screamed hysterically at me, "Why did you kick my dog? What did it ever do to you? How could you be so malicious?" After screaming, she lunged at me, scratching. I dodged to the side. Seeing her like this, the anger in my heart could no longer be suppressed, and I slapped her across the face. "Keep an eye on your dog. It was trying to bite me. What right do you have to accuse me?" Victoria White was stunned by my slap, then immediately burst into tears. Ethan Davis was instantly heartbroken. Without a word, he raised his hand and slapped me. The force of this slap was immense. I felt the world spin and fell uncontrollably to the ground. "Apologize to Victoria's dog immediately." Ethan Davis didn't even look at me lying on the ground. While carefully picking up the dog, he gently put his arm around Victoria White and said anxiously, "Let's go to the vet clinic." Before leaving, he didn't forget to glare back at me. "I'll deal with you when we get home. You're always causing trouble." I lay on the cold ground, my body aching unbearably, but the despair in my heart far surpassed the physical pain. Suddenly, I felt a warm sensation below, and a sense of dread washed over me. I trembled as I reached down and felt my hand covered in blood. I widened my eyes in horror, looking in the direction Ethan Davis had left, and cried out weakly and helplessly, "Ethan Davis, I'm bleeding." However, he didn't hear my cries. His footsteps hurried. He walked away with Victoria White and her dog without looking back, growing further and further away. For ultimately, I was alone, enduring the severe pain in my body and endless despair, clinging to my last bit of strength to get to the hospital. As soon as I stepped through the hospital entrance, I felt dizzy and the world went black, losing consciousness. The doctor told me that although my life was saved after emergency treatment, the baby in my belly was gone. At that moment, tears streamed down my face. During my hospital stay, Ethan Davis not only didn't show up but didn't even call. If he had just come for a quick look, asked how I was doing, maybe I would have felt a little better. However, until I was discharged, he never appeared. My heart was completely dead. I knew it was time to let go of this relationship. Later, I left that city full of painful memories. I went to Eastwood City, where I met Robert Sterling. He was steady and reliable, and he cared for me attentively. After spending some time together and finding each other suitable, we got married. We also welcomed 2 lovely children. Life was simple but warm, and before I knew it, 5 years had passed. Aunt Martha's voice pulled me back from my memories. "Sarah, Ethan Davis has been looking for you for 5 whole years. Such deep affection is hard to find. If you miss this chance, you'll truly regret it for the rest of your life." I composed myself and managed a smile. "Aunt Martha, I'm already married and have 2 children. My husband is very good to me, and we're a very happy family." Aunt Martha and Jessica were instantly shocked by my words. Jessica's eyes widened in disbelief. "Sarah, are you crazy? Ethan Davis is a prominent young man from a wealthy family. The Davis family is a major force in Seaview. You're giving up such a good opportunity for that, just to marry some ordinary person from out of town? What were you thinking?" Aunt Martha also kept shaking her head. "That's right, Sarah, you've wasted a great chance to change your life. Just think, if you had married Ethan Davis, how glorious your life would be. You'd have everything you want." I smiled gently, not responding to their words. As Aunt Martha prepared to leave, she leaned closer and whispered, "Sarah, should I tell Ethan Davis about your marriage?" "Aunt Martha thinks you shouldn't tell him yet. Instead, seize this opportunity to quickly divorce your current husband. Maybe Ethan Davis can still accept you, and you two can still have a chance together." It was clear they were more anxious than I was. These past few years, they had probably been hoping I would marry into the Davis family so they could also get rich off my connection. I smiled faintly. "Aunt Martha, you don't need to worry about me. Feel free to tell him. With that, I took a gift box from my bag and handed it to Aunt Martha. Inside is the ring Ethan Davis gave me when he proposed. I left in a hurry 5 years ago. Oh, and never had a chance to return it to him. Could you please give it to him for me? I vaguely remembered how Ethan Davis looked kneeling before me. He had sworn that he would never marry anyone but me in this lifetime, that he would only ever love me. But before we even got married, he had already broken his promise. Aunt Martha took the gift box, looked at me, and sighed deeply, muttering, "You child, you're too headstrong. I hope you don't regret this later." Then, she turned and left with Jessica, looking disappointed. That evening, I was playing with my children in the living room of the hotel suite when my phone suddenly rang. Seeing it was Jessica, a strange unease rose in my heart. "Sarah, I gave the gift box to Ethan Davis." As soon as he saw the ring, his eyes immediately turned red. He didn't say anything, just turned and left. "Is he coming to find you?" After hanging up, my heart involuntarily clenched. Although 5 years had passed, hearing about Ethan Davis still stirred some emotion. A knock soon sounded at the door. My heart rate suddenly quickened. Slowly opening the door, it was indeed Ethan Davis standing outside. He was breathing heavily, his eyes red, looking at me, his voice slightly trembling. "Sarah, I finally see you again." Looking at Ethan Davis, whom I hadn't seen in so long, the pain of the past instantly flooded my mind. The former intimacy was gone. At this moment, I could only pretend to be distant. Taking a deep breath, I tried to keep my tone flat. "Mr. Davis, what can I do for you?" Hearing me address him so formally, a hint of sadness flickered in Ethan Davis's eyes. However, just as he was about to speak, my daughter's clear voice came from inside the room. "Mommy, who's at the door?" Before she finished speaking, the two little ones ran out from inside the room. My older daughter, Lily, with her big, watery eyes, curiously looked at Ethan Davis and asked in a clear voice, "Mommy, who is this person?" Hearing the word mommy, Ethan Davis's face changed dramatically. His lips trembled, and he slowly looked at me. They are really your daughters?" There wasn't much emotion in my heart, perhaps the past pain had numbed me. I responded openly, "Yes, these are my two daughters." Ethan Davis was silent for a long time, as if accepting this harsh reality. After a while, he raised his head, his eyes full of confusion and pain, and looked at me, asking, "Why did you get married? You agreed when I proposed, you said you would marry me. Why did things change?" I looked at him, a hint of bitter amusement in my heart. The past was like a wound that wouldn't heal, hurting slightly every time it was mentioned. I answered calmly, "Mr. Davis, the promises of the past faded with time. That was then, everything is irreversible." Just then, Lily pressed on, "Mommy, who is he anyway?" Ethan Davis opened his mouth and mumbled, I'm your mommy's friend." I turned and gently told Lily, "Lily, he's just someone mommy used to know. There's nothing special about him, don't ask." With that, I slowly closed the door and said to Ethan Davis through the door, "Mr. Davis, I hope you won't disturb my life from now on. I'm afraid my husband will misunderstand." However, in the following days, every time I went out, I could always see Ethan Davis's car parked nearby. I knew he was lingering around, but I didn't want any more entanglement with him, so I ignored him. One rainy day, I went out with my daughters. Halfway there, it suddenly started pouring. I quickly pulled my daughters under an awning/shelter by the side of the road to take shelter. But I didn't expect Ethan Davis to run over, holding an umbrella, completely soaked and looking a mess. "You're still the same as before, you don't even remember to bring an umbrella on a rainy day, so careless." Compared to his past blaming tone, this time he clearly lacked some of his usual confidence/authority. Instead, he seemed a bit hesitant/cautious. I pushed my bangs, which were already damp, out of my eyes, but I didn't take the umbrella he offered. Even though the umbrella had the pattern I was familiar with. He had actually kept this umbrella until now. "Stop being stubborn, take it. Even if not for yourself, don't let your two daughters catch a cold." When Ethan Davis mentioned the word daughters, there was a tremor in his voice. Presumably, he still couldn't accept the fact that I had two daughters. "Mr. Davis, I made it very clear that day. I am a married woman now. Your behavior will cause my husband to misunderstand." I looked at him and said seriously. Ethan Davis smiled bitterly. "You're lying to me, aren't you? I've been following you for the past few days, and I haven't seen your husband. You're not married, but you're raising two children alone. Why are you pretending?" I was also amused by Ethan Davis's words. I was back here this time because Robert Sterling had an important acquisition project to discuss. And what he was acquiring was none other than the Davis family business. Mr. Davis, I am not lying to you. However, Ethan Davis chose not to believe me again. In reality, it was more likely that he was unwilling to accept it. He breathed heavily and said urgently, "Really, Sarah, I don't care that you have 2 daughters. Just say yes, and I'll marry you right now. We can start over." Looking at him, I felt a bit helpless. He didn't understand that some damage, once done, is irreversible. I said calmly again, "Mr. Davis, you're overthinking it. My husband has been busy with an important project these past few days and doesn't have time to be with me, but he does exist. And I am very happy with my life now. Please don't disturb me this way, okay?" Ethan Davis stared intently into my eyes, trying to find a flaw. "Don't lie to me. You're still angry about me hitting you back then, aren't you? All these years. You haven't been able to let go of that." I took a deep breath, calming my emotions, and said, "No, I'm not angry anymore. Let the past be the past. I just want to live my life now." But Ethan Davis couldn't let it go. That slap for Victoria White back then was the first time he had ever hit me in the more than 10 years we had been together. I didn't expect him to remember it until now. And to regret it until now. Suddenly, in front of the onlookers, he slapped himself hard across the face, the sound particularly harsh in the rain. He looked at me, his eyes full of pain, and asked, "Does that make us even?" Watching Ethan Davis's sudden action, my 2 daughters were stunned and hid behind me. Passers-by also stopped, looking at him with confusion. "Ethan Davis, stop being so childish, okay? Do you really think you can repay that? There are some things you still don't know." Ethan Davis heard that there was something more to what I said, and his expression instantly froze. He asked me urgently, "What else don't I know? So, Sarah, why exactly did you leave me back then? I really can't figure out what I ever did wrong to you back then." I wanted to laugh at how he could say such a thing. What did he do wrong to me? Ever since Victoria White appeared, his kindness no longer belonged to me. Looking at his self-righteous expression, I only felt it was absurd. When I needed him the most, where was he? Now, those painful memories that I had finally managed to suppress in my heart, unwilling to touch upon again, he was using a rhetorical question to make me relive them and tell him the answer. The words I had originally intended to say instantly vanished. I shot him a cold glance, turned, took my daughter's hands, and walked into the rain. The rain instantly soaked our clothes, chilling us to the bone, but it was nothing compared to the coldness in my heart. Seeing this, Ethan Davis hurriedly chased after me, reaching out and gripping my arm tightly, his voice pleading. "Sarah, please, explain why. Even if it's just so I can give up on you completely, I need to understand. Do you know how I've lived these past 5 years? I've thought about you every single day." I forcefully pulled my arm free from his grip, my tone icy. "Thought about me? You married Victoria White. What do you need to think about me for? Since you made your choice 5 years ago, why come back to bother me now?" 5 years ago, right after I left, I actually did have some regrets. After all, being childhood sweethearts with Ethan Davis for over a decade, it was incredibly difficult to let go of that relationship. During that time, I secretly came back once. What I saw was Ethan Davis and Victoria White's wedding. It turned out he was far more impatient than I had imagined. Mentioning Victoria White in front of Ethan Davis again after 5 years, his face instantly turned pale. "Sarah, marrying Victoria White back then was truly out of necessity. And, as soon as I heard you were back, I already gave her the divorce papers. Even if she wants half of the Davis family assets because of it, I don't care. I just hope I can be with you from now on. Please, give me another chance." I laughed coldly. I thought you wanted me to be his mistress. The Davis family is a huge business. Keeping one more woman isn't difficult for you." Ethan Davis's eyes widened, and he quickly waved his hands. "Sarah, how could I ever have that thought? In my heart, you've always been the most important, far more than Victoria White." I curved my lips mockingly. 5 years ago, maybe I would have been swayed by these words. But now, it's too late for everything. Ethan Davis still wanted to say something. The anger in my heart was about to erupt, and I was about to yell at him when Robert Sterling came hurrying over, holding an umbrella. Robert Sterling walked up to me, naturally put his arm around my waist, and asked with concern, "Why are you standing in the rain? Are you feeling unwell?" Ethan Davis, upon seeing Robert Sterling, instantly widened his eyes. Perhaps he never dreamed that my husband would be Robert Sterling. The Davis family is currently facing a crisis, and the one here to negotiate the acquisition is precisely my husband. Mr. Sterling, you are Sarah's husband?" Ethan Davis's lips trembled, and it took him a long time to speak. 7. The rain was still falling lightly, and the air around us became heavy due to Robert Sterling's presence. Robert Sterling glanced at Ethan Davis, didn't answer immediately, but held me tighter. He looked down at me gently and said softly, "Let's go home first, don't catch a cold." I nodded and started walking with him. Ethan Davis stood rooted to the spot, his gaze following us, his eyes filled with unwillingness, shock, and a trace of emotion I couldn't understand. He seemed to want to say something else but ultimately didn't. Perhaps he knew all too well the consequences of offending Robert Sterling. However, just as we were about to get into the car, Ethan Davis suddenly rushed forward again and blocked the car door. "Impossible, this is absolutely impossible. How could you marry Robert Sterling? And even if you married him, how could your older daughter already be this old?" Robert Sterling's face instantly darkened. "Ethan Davis, don't push it." But Ethan Davis's emotions were becoming increasingly agitated. "Sarah, I suddenly remember, 5 years ago, did you mention something about being pregnant? Did you say that, did you?" "Huh. So, 5 years ago, when I told him I was pregnant outside the hotel, his cold "oh" wasn't a response to me, but just a perfunctory sound. At that moment, his eyes were only on Victoria White. He didn't hear me at all. Life truly felt like a joke. I gave a self-mocking smile and replied, "Stop talking nonsense, that never happened. Impossible. U.D. Finn. Itley mentioned it." "Sarah, why would you hide something like this from me? Is it possible? Is Lily my daughter?" Ethan Davis looked at Lily with a burning gaze, scaring Lily into shrinking back into the car. Robert Sterling's calm face was instantly covered in frost, and his eyes showed a coldness I had never seen before. "Ethan Davis, you'd better control yourself. If you want the Davis family acquisition to go smoothly, stop bothering my wife." Ethan Davis, however, was blinded by his obsession and ignored Robert Sterling's warning. Ethan Davis stared at Lily, his voice changing tone. "You were pregnant with my child back then, this child must be mine." I was both angry and afraid, shielding Lily behind me. "Ethan Davis, are you finished? I told you, she's not yours." Robert Sterling's patience had completely run out. He punched Ethan Davis in the face. "You have no right to bring this up. Do you know how much physical and emotional pain Sarah suffered from the miscarriage back then? And where were you when she needed you the most? Now you have the nerve to question her." Before marrying Robert Sterling, I had anxiously confessed about being pregnant and miscarrying, worried he would be disgusted, but I didn't want to hide it from him. To my relief, upon hearing about my past, Robert Sterling instead held me tightly. "The past is past, don't think about it anymore. I'll be with you from now on and won't let you be wronged." At that moment, I realized I was lucky. And I was destined to be happy from then on. Ethan Davis clutched his mouth, completely losing control. "Anyway, I don't believe it. Even if the Davis family goes bankrupt, I won't give her up to you." Back at the hotel, Robert Sterling saw my worry and pulled me into his arms. "Don't be afraid, I'll handle the Davis family business. I won't let him harass you or the children." I nodded, leaning into his embrace, feeling more at ease because of his words. But I had expected Ethan Davis to truly disregard the Davis family crisis and continue acting recklessly. One day, the sun was bright and beautiful, and I took my daughters to play in the park. Lily was skipping on the grass, and I watched her with a smile. But unexpectedly, Ethan Davis suddenly appeared and picked her up. I quickly rushed over, pushed Ethan Davis away, and snatched Lily back, my teeth clenched in anger. "Ethan Davis, what do you think you're doing? Are you crazy? What if you scare the children?" Ethan Davis stumbled back a few steps, his eyes red, muttering as he stared at Lily, "But she is my daughter. Why are you doing this to me?" The park visitors cast curious glances. "Ethan Davis, you're insane." Leaving those words behind, I pulled Lily's hand and tried to walk away. But Ethan Davis wouldn't give up. "Sarah, I truly had my reasons back then. For the sake of the children, please give me a chance to explain, okay?" Lily was sobbing in my arms. I comforted her softly, my eyes never leaving Ethan Davis, afraid he would make another impulsive move. "What else do you have to say?" Ethan Davis looked at me in pain and spoke slowly. "Back then, the Davis family was facing a funding crisis/cash flow issues, and a project went wrong, requiring huge compensation payments. Debt collectors were showing up constantly, and people at the company were panicking. Victoria's family offered financial help only if Victoria and I were together. As the heir to the Davis family fortune/company, for the sake of the family business and employees, I had no choice but to agree." Ethan Davis's voice was full of grievance. "I always thought I would come back to you after the Davis family got through the crisis. But that time you had a conflict with Victoria White, she threatened me with company matters. What could I do? In that situation, I could only help her. Listening to Ethan Davis's words, a wave of bitterness washed over me. 5 years had passed, and he was still pushing the blame onto me. He didn't understand how deeply his choice back then had hurt me. Were those difficult days I endured alone, the tears I cried at night, so insignificant in his eyes? After speaking, Ethan Davis stared intently at me, awaiting my response. Just like back then, when I told him about being pregnant, I had similarly awaited his response. However, I merely gave him a lukewarm "oh." Instantly, he finally experienced how I felt back then. His originally burning gaze visibly dimmed. Is that all? I smiled faintly. What else? Mr. Davis, let me emphasize one last time, the past is past. The things that happened before are not something the person I am now should be concerned about. However, just then, Lily suddenly ran over, crying and shouting, "Mommy, Chloe is missing." Immediately, my heart tightened. I quickly looked towards the nearby grass area and found that Chloe, who had been sitting on the grass area clumsily playing with sand, was gone. At the same time, Ethan Davis's phone rang. "If that bitch wants her daughter back, come to the rooftop." Ethan Davis and I rushed to the rooftop, our hearts burning with anxiety. We saw Victoria White at a glance. Her eyes were bloodshot, her hair disheveled, and she looked completely unhinged. Chloe was in her arms, crying in terror. "Mommy, mommy." Hearing my daughter's cries, my heart ached terribly. I instantly started crying too. But I didn't dare make a move, afraid Victoria White might accidentally hurt the child. "Victoria White, what are you doing? Are you crazy?" Ethan Davis rushed forward to question her, but Victoria White shouted him down. She looked at me, her eyes full of resentment, and yelled, "Don't come any closer, or I'll throw the child down." Ethan Davis, why can't you ever forget her? What am I lacking compared to her? For her, you'd rather lose half of the Davis family assets than stay married to me. Seeing how agitated Victoria White was, I tried hard to calm myself and comfort her. "Victoria White, don't get excited. Ethan Davis and I are already impossible. I have a husband and children now. Besides, I hate Ethan Davis, I will never forgive him." Victoria White cried and then suddenly started laughing. "Then why did you come back? Do you know? For the past 5 years, Ethan Davis has been shouting your name even in his sleep. Why? Why is it you that he loves?" Seeing her shift a few more steps outward while holding Chloe, my legs felt like jelly. Then I swung my hand and slapped Ethan Davis hard across the face, just to prove that I truly hated him. I really only have hatred for him left. "Please, don't hurt my daughter." Victoria White didn't listen at all, shaking her head frantically. "I don't believe it." Suddenly, she held up the child and shouted, "If I can't have happiness, none of you will either." "No." Watching her hold up the child, my heart leaped into my throat, and my blood ran cold. At that moment, Ethan Davis, taking advantage of Victoria White's moment of distraction, rushed over and snatched the child away. But because she lost her balance and was emotionally agitated, Victoria White slipped and, pulling on Ethan Davis's clothes, fell from the rooftop. Ethan Davis desperately grabbed onto the railing. His body swayed in the wind. He could fall at any moment. I reached out and grabbed his hand tightly. But I felt like I couldn't hold on, only watching his body slide down. Just like back then, I had never managed to hold on to him. However, Ethan Davis looked up at me and actually smiled. A sense of relief filled his smile. "Sarah, it seems I can never hold on to you in this life. But if there's a next life, I promise I won't ever hurt you for any other woman." With that, he closed his eyes with a sense of release. His hand let go. Everything vanished like passing clouds. Only Chloe's cries echoed in my ears.